Hello and welcome to a buildingSMART webinar. This webinar is part of the buildingSMART Virtual Summit for Spring 2022. Thank you for joining. My name is Dan Little and I will be your moderator today. I'll also be joined later in the session by John Proctor. Today's webinar is titled Semantics4 BIM. Our speakers are Yannick Cotherel and Nolwenn Lancien. This webinar is scheduled to last 1 hour with an opportunity for questions at the end. The webinar is being recorded and will be made available in the replay section of the event within 24 hours. Before I hand over to our speakers, I would like to remind you that your phone lines will remain muted for the duration of this webinar. If you have any questions or wish to make comments, please use the chat box in the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. I would also like to bring to your attention the slide that is just coming up on the screen now, which says that buildingSMART is committed to ensuring that participation in the development of standards is unrestricted, and the process for their adoption is transparent, and standards that are developed do not favor any particular provider and are open, non-binding, and accessible to all. Please take note of our antitrust code of conduct. With that introduction, I would now like to hand over to the first speaker, which will be Yannick. The floor is yours, Yannick.
Okay, thank you then. Hello everyone. So my name is Yannick Cotherel. I'm vice chair of the French chapter of buildingSMART, and I am also the leader of the technical committee of this chapter, and I'm leading as well the BIM development for Cercle Qualité certification here in France. I will let Nolwenn present herself later on this presentation. This session is about a project that we have here in France called Semantics4 BIM. It is a project to develop a tool on the top actually of BSD, and I will going to explain you the purpose of this project. Just to have a start, like I said, this tool, the purpose of this tool is to be as a top layer of the existing BSDD. BSDD have some existing services to be able to host standards classification and dictionaries, to connect to have a relation between the standards, to have relation to external entities using the URIs, and to share a concept between standards. Actually, the content in BSDD are stored by domain. Is just an important point. I will come to that later. The purpose of our project, our objectives, is to bring a level and to bring a tool to the BSDD to make BSDD compliant, fully compliant with 3 standards. The first one is the ISO 23386. The second one is the 23387, and the last one is 1206-3, the revised version. There is a revision actually on this standard, and we're working on the revised version of the standard. Again, another objective, and we want this tool able to be proposed as an open source tool. So we keep in mind that we want to be able to propose it one day actually as an open source tool. Right now, we have some different kind of contents in BSDD, but also in other dictionaries at the national level or at the international level. We have existing content not available online. We have some content not standardized or following other standards, like some classification systems or so on. And we have some contents following the 2336 and 23387, but without the workflows, and it is the case of the BSDD. And right now, we don't have any content fully compliant with the standards. So it is again why we decide to have this project here in buildingSMART France. Just as an example, just a point, an example of the compliancy of BSDD to the standards. It is an example on the terminology used in BSDD and the definitions in the standards. As an example, in the 23386 and in the 1206-3, the term used in BSDD to describe dictionary domain, the related term in the ISO 23386 is dictionary. So we have to work on that to have the BSDD fully compliant with those standards. It is just an example. There are other things on it. So we decide to develop a web solution with some functionalities. The first thing, it is a web application to have to be able to have navigation on the content of BSDD, to view the semantics host in BSDD. The second one, it is a functionality to be able to manage the content of dictionaries, host in BSDD. This is to be compliant with the necessary workflow required by the ISO standard. Of course, we are using BSDD as the main database to host all of the dictionary, all of the content, existing and the future content. And we have another database to be able to host all of the workflow and all of the versioning of the modification using the workflow compliant with the ISO 26386. So it is really necessary in these standards to host and to keep in a database all of the modification and all of the management of the content. We have also 3 different APIs, one API to write, one API to read, actually, and the last API is the higher level API for higher level services, and to provide an API for other tool to be able to connect to the BSDD, to the content of the BSDD, but it is 3 APIs compliant with description of the new version of the 1206.3. This is the same thing, but another view. It is a schema of what I explained just before. We have here the level and the existing actually BSDD, and with the existing API and the possibility to export some JSON. Here it is the functionality of the Semantics4 BIM tool, with here the platform and here the APIs. I'm going to show you the functionalities of our tool. So I will log in here as an administrator, but it's more as a simple users for this example. The dictionary and the user access, it is of course for multi-dictionary use. We will have the dark mode you saw. We will be able to manage a profile and to manage the role of any users on the tool. There's two different language for the interface, English and French for now. You have a notification functionality and a helper to explain the terms and the functionality of the tool. On the left, you have a menu with a global search to make a search in all of the dictionary hosted in BSDD. This is an example with the term wall. You have also access to all of the dictionary hosted in BSDD. And if as a user I want to have a favorite, I can click on the star here, and the dictionary will be in my favorite to have a quicker access to it. We'll have an access to the reference documents and the units. This is to be compliant with the ISO, and all of the language used in all of the dictionaries. Okay, this is just to present the interface. I'm gonna now present the navigation here in one dictionaries. I'm still logged in as a simple user. I click to have an access on a specific dictionary. Here it's the mine pavement dictionary. Here on the left, you have some different access to the content of this dictionary. You have first here a dashboard. We will come back to that later, but it is a page where we will be able to have some information about the evolution and the work done in this particular dictionary. Here we have an access by the specific area of competence in this particular dictionary. We have an access by the objects. It's more the classes if we are compliant with the ISO 23386. And we have an access with by properties, or an access by reference documents. We have three ways to go to the content. One, it's a hierarchical tree. One, it's a flat list. Here it is a 2D graph, which is to me very more effective to understand the content and the relation between the entities of the dictionaries. And we also have a 3D graph, but it's more, I think the 2D graph is more efficient to understand the content. In any content, in hollow content of the dictionary, we have the description compliant with the ISO 23386 of all of the information required by this ISO standard. We have that for the classes, of course, but we have also that for any properties. Here it is an example of the SDS properties for fonts. And again, in each properties, we have the metadata required by the ISO standards to describe it. So your general data, the units, the relations, a JSON view, and all of the versioning of the possible, here there is not, but it is a new dictionary, but we will have all of the versioning of this particular properties or class, and every modification will be hosted in this part. Okay, now we're going to present you all of the functionality for the content governance, and it's all of the workflow required by the ISO. So I'm going to log in as an administrator. When you create a new dictionary, we will have to define some administrator for this specific dictionary. Here, I'm going to take the example of the mine drainage dictionary. So you can see there is some administrators, and there is also some experts. We'll be able to define some areas of competencies for this typical dictionary, like the ISO require, and we will be able to define some experts group by area of competencies, and of course, and also some contributors groups. And for each group, we will be able to define the users, and the users, we will give them a role as an expert or as a contributor on this specific dictionary. Okay. So like that, all of the experts will have specific rights and access, and specific access to other functionalities, to be able to manage the content, to be able to evaluate the proposition of some evolution, and to validate or refuse some modification to the dictionary content. Now I'm going to show you the workflow of one modification proposal to a dictionary. So here I'm going to log in as a contributor. I'm going to this particular specific mine drainage dictionary. So I have an access to the navigation like I showed you before. I'm going to select the specific entities that I want to work in. I have the possibility to switch to a contributor mode, where I will be the abilities to go to a draft mode, which free all of the content in this entities. I will make my modification. I will have functionality just to highlight what I've done to this entities here. I can save it, so I can go back later to continue my work. I can come back later to continue my work, and when I'm happy with it, I submit it with a comment to the expert group, and I submit my proposition, my update to the expert group for an evaluation and a possible validation. Okay. Now I'm going to show you the work of the expert. So okay, I'm going to log in as an expert on the tool. I'm going to the same mine drainage where I name as an expert because I have this access here. I have here a notification to say me that there is one contributor who've done a modification on the dictionary, and as an expert, I have to give an evaluation on that. So I'm to log into the dictionary. I'm going to the expert mode. I see the submitted nodes, and like that, I will be able to see the modification and the proposal of the contributor. We don't have that yet, but we are developing a communication canal for discussion between the experts and the contributors, perhaps to ask some question about the purpose of this modification, or some more detailed about it. And I will have the ability to highlight the modification to make it more clear. And if I am happy with it, I can validate it or refuse it with a comment to the contributor. Just a quick add, we will have two different modes of validation. The first mode will be unanimously, and the second one will be by majority. And the administrator of the dictionary will decide which mode he wants to apply to his dictionary. Okay, just a quick view of our roadmap for this developments. Next month, and we're still working on the development of some functionalities, and we're working on the development of the APIs. We will work on that until I think the end of May. In May, we will want to set some tests, some beta tests to finalize developments and to perhaps optimize the interfaces. And we want this tool be available in June, and we will provide some documentations and public access to this tool in June. Just if you want to be in touch, we launch I call that a Wait for It website. There is some just quick information about the project, and when it will be ready, the website will be placed in this URL. All right, thank you. That's it to me. I think I've done.
Thank you, Yannick. It was excellent. Thank you for taking us through your presentation, Semantics4 BIM. I think we have Nolwenn who's going to present now. I'm going to bring your slides onto the screen, Nolwenn.
Thanks. So good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Yannick, for this presentation. So my name is Nolwenn Lancien. I'm working for Arcan Systems, and what I will show you today is a work coming from Mind Group, who are working with buildingSMART France. And the idea is to show how all that has been built could be applied to a specific context, which will be the pavement one. So pavement application feedback, how do we deal with this tool that Yannick just presented? First of all, as we were in a specific domain, we need to scope a little bit what we want to see. So it was a question about how to represent things on one side, but more important, how to generate and organize some information about pavement. Yannick showed you some elements regarding drainage. So there were two parts, the drainage of the platform and the pavement of the platform. When we start to try to have an organization and a structuration of data, you quite rapidly understand that there is a word, quite dense and with many element word. And just with this little cross section, you can see that the information you will put on what you see every day, which is a pavement, has specification if you are on the wearing course, if you are on the sub base, if you are on the what we called fast lane or rapid lane, etc. And you will see in the rest of the presentation some more specific elements about the material that constitute this pavement. Of course, all this work is also very linked to the IFC, and the object and the data that are described in the buildingSMART data dictionary has to be aligned with the structure and how an IFC is built. We also identify quite specific use case. So we're speaking about pavement, design, maintenance, and operation, which means that the information that you get at the very start for example, when you are a designer, and the information that you need as a contractor and after as an operator will change with the time. And the idea of the BSDD is to have enough information in the meantime, generics one, but also quite specific to allow this different use case. Here you can see some tests that we have done on pavement structure, and to understand that we work on the semantics on the property set. Geometry, I put it very in parentheses because it wasn't the focus, and on hierarchization. What Yannick shows you on the website came from this little, I would say, quite charming Excel that you can see here more precisely. And you understand that the first stage was to delimitate, to classify some information with the name, the definition, if it came from a specific country or not. As I told you, it came from mine, which is a French initiative. So it's true that if you are speaking in the French standard or in the American standard, you can have some discrepancy, which is important regarding localization of the information. And you had to specify if you are in that or that category of information and who is the parents and the children, etc. So this, how to say, ancestor of BSDD turn on what you have seen a few minutes ago. And you can see that I take exactly the same division here for a sub-base course in the pavement. Here you get also a sub-base course, and you can find again all the property we worked on. Here it's also to be a bit harder in the deep information is all what the users don't see, but is hidden behind. If I show you that, it's not to scare anybody, it's just to say that at the beginning it's quite confusing and it could be impressive to see all of this. But finally, it's only a question of hierarchization and to translate your job. I'm a former pavement engineer. It's to translate your job into information that everybody can use later. A point that I want to highlight, I told you few slides before, that we will focus on the material. If we are speaking about material, it means that the denomination and the classification won't be exactly the same everywhere in the world. And that's why the fact to have this structure can help to have a coherence and to harmonize things, even if we can keep our specificity. When I speak about specificity, sorry, I'm talking about the standard, about the way to design a pavement. For example, in France, we use the 98 catalog. In the US, you will use ASHTO, etc., etc. So it's not incompatible. It's just that between the theory and all what has been built and the reality of your work, you will see that some adjustment could be done. And also, I tell you that a designer, a contractor, and an operator don't have the same needs. So it also means that all the information you listed could be more or less relevant depending the life cycle of the infrastructure you are dealing with. It means that regarding the national context and regarding the specificity of your timeline, you could be in a position to add some element and to enrich a model with the data dictionary. And we will see an example of that just after. This part will be split in two elements. First one regarding parameters for the design, and just after I will show you some parameters regarding environment impact. So first of all, we can add technical elements for a layer. Here you can see a division, very simple division between the different layers that you get to build a pavement. And we choose to focus on Young modulus, which is intrinsic parameter of a pavement. which is important at the design phase, and a second technical parameter about routing, which is more related to operation when you get degradation on your pavement, and to show that those kind of information which are really linked to the job site have a reality in all these standards, which could be a bit complicated, but when you address it with your operational needs, you understand that it's way easier when you've got a structure. What we try to do here is that we had a model with some IFC information, and we wanted to enrich this model with some modification, and specifically the two parameters I showed you just before. So if we are in the IFC model, we can have the opportunity to choose what kind of BSDD we want to anchor this work. So here we use the mine pavement BSDD. And in this mine pavement BSDD, we are going to select, because you see the tree of the information, we are going to select an information regarding the deformation, to add the different parameter we talked just before. So here, for example, we are writing that we can have on this representation of reality 50 millimeters of routing, and you can add in front of the information the true value that you had on site. The same idea is to deal it with the modulus, the Young modulus that we were speaking just before. You want to add in this information, I know a pavement has a Young modulus, I want to write specifically what is the value of this information. And if I just jump a little bit further, we can write here that you get more than 5,000 MPa for a specific parameter. This was an example of what we can have as a use case, as a designer or as an operator. If we follow the same philosophy, we can also have some information to add regarding environment. And we are not speaking of this subject only because it's a topic very highlighted currently. It's more that we know that environment and standards that will come with are going to be quite important, also regarding cost and responsibility of work. So if you remember, I show you quite a scary line of code here for the structure data. And what if these elements are also implemented and enriched with some element regarding the carbon impact, for example? Because your model, after have been built, have to be alive to follow the life cycle of your physical infrastructure. Otherwise, you just did a BIM model with a beautiful IFC, but that is not enough clever to be usable. So what I'm going to show you is that in the same idea that before, you can have some job tool to help to the decision, to compare, for example, a pavement layer option 1 and a pavement layer option 2 with two different carbon footprints, and you want to add this information in your structure BSDD. If I go further in the operational element, this is a tool called ORIS, and this tool is used to have a mapping of where I can find some material. You remember I take the example of material for the technical parameter, material for how they involve in time with operation, and now material, how they are constituted, and what is their carbon impact. So here you can see around your project all the production center with different material available that you can use to build your road. It's not a surprise that material has their own classification with some elements, characteristic, composition, but also environmental element. And that's where it could be interesting to add this information in the global model more clever finally. I will try to show you it for real. Yes, so this one. Can you? Yeah, I see the return. Okay, it's good. So here you got a road, and you will build some pavement on this road, and you can see that you have many possibilities to build this pavement, and you want to choose only some of them to compare them with an environmental and a responsible way of doing. So here you will select some pavement, for example, 4 of them, and you will have a comparison because you remember the map we just showed together. The map gives you some elements where you can source the material, and those different materials are then compared to say, okay, this is my carbon footprint in green. This is my cost because it's also links to the economic way. This is the cost for each pavement, and you can consider to simulate to have models which will take into consideration this element. But to be able to have a clever model, you also have here. It's another representation of the things. You can also have here in the attributes you can find regarding the different pavement layer you had a property that you call carbon sustainability, and that you classify as a B level of sustainability, or a better one, or a worst one, a C level of sustainability, etc., etc. And now you feel that if those information regarding sustainability can be had, sorry, what are you? Oh. Oops, tech can be added in that. Yes, this one. If here I can, you remember the Excel of the beginning, if here I had only to insert a kind of line and said, okay, here the environmental classification that I want is to specify carbon footprint, carbon, and that in Semantics4 BIM you get the return about your sub-base course. Here you can add the children with carbon sustainability. You understand that the match is there, and you are not anymore only working on hierarchization and data which are out of your scope of work and your current and operational problems. You are really dealing with clever information that can change with the time and that can be very much more accurate to the needs and to the challenge of tomorrow. So I think it's now possible to conclude on this work. To say that TechDB is really an opportunity to include some information regarding the act of construction and the data management. So you remember that we spoke about the standard requirement, which can be different. You also have the opportunity to follow a common guideline, and this guideline are really something, a kind of skeleton you can build on. And after that, after having this box very structured, it's also an opportunity to work on correspondence with your market, with the quantity takeoff, with pricing, with country localization. And it's really today also an open possibility to introduce entities that contribute to fill the low carbon strategy. I think it will be all for me. If you've got any comment, question, please feel free.
That's great, Nolwenn. Thank you for that. I'd like to invite Yannick to rejoin us as well. Yes, thank you for both of those presentations. Very, very good, very thorough, very interesting. We had a comment from Oyvind whilst we were going through the presentations. He also said they were very interesting and highly relevant, which is good. A question from me: if you take the what you showed us and the development path, I think you were showing the alpha, beta, and then full production development coming up very soon now. I think, Yannick, will the model that you were showing be available to all, kind of, worldwide, as it were? Is it kind of focused on European audience, or is it going to be truly international in nature?
Actually, we launched the project as from the French needs, but we really want this project to be a project for at least the European level, but to me, for the international level, because we are implementing the ISO standards. So this is an international standards for dictionary, and of course, to me, yeah, the very purpose of this project is to be useful for anyone at the international level. So we want to push this tool at this level, but we'll see if we'll be able to do that.
Okay. Yep, I understand. Yep, that's great. Thank you. I know Leon van Berlo, our technical director, is, as I'm sure you're aware, is very keen on having additional services and tools available through the BSDD. So I think this will be a very helpful addition to what's happening in the development of the BSDD. Oyvind made another comment. He thanked you again for the excellent presentations, and he was asking about whether the video will be open so you can show it to outside the buildingSMART community. I mean, at present, Oyvind, as we're still the summit, is still continuing, finishes tomorrow. To access any of the material that's been presented, including this presentation, people have to have registered for the summit. And it will be like that for the next, I think, 6 to 8 weeks. But in approximately 6 to 8 weeks' time, videos of the different presentations will be available through the BSI website. They're usually Vimeo streams rather than YouTube, but many platforms are available, as they say. So they will be available outside the community, but not for a few weeks' time. Okay, we have no further comments or questions at this point in time, so I'm going to wrap things up. I'd just like to thank Yannick and Nolwenn for their excellent presentations today. Thank you for taking us through Semantics4 BIM and showing us how it works. There are further agenda items at the summit taking place now. Probably the last presentation of the day is about to start, and we also have sessions booked in for tomorrow morning and the closing plenary from the different BSI rooms tomorrow afternoon, if you're operating on European time, that is. Please do join us there. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.